Welcome to Life is for Living with David Riddell, and I'm your host, Kylie Buckley. Today we're going to be talking about panic attacks and what actually happens in our body. And David has some ideas from his years of experience dealing with people managing these circumstances. So, David, thank you for joining us again on another session. Can you talk into panic attacks and ways that people can, and what actually happens, what brings it on, and how people can help themselves when they feel an attack happening? Because I've got a daughter that has been through panic attacks, and it's very, very real, to the point where she thought she had a health condition and went to the hospital. She had such pain in her gut, but there was nothing wrong.
Perhaps I could begin with a short story. There are different causes to panic attacks. And first of all, we want to work out, is this a volitional cause of the mind, or is this a physiological cause of the body? For example, let me give you a story regarding a physiological cause. Years ago, I visited the dentist, and he gave me a shot of painless, which contains Novocaine. And at that moment, I felt like I was having a panic attack. I became extremely anxious. My heart started pounding. And I said to him, "What have you done to me? I feel like I'm having a heart attack." My hands were clammy and I was sweating. And he just shook his head and said, "Oh, there's adrenaline in the Novocaine. It often has that effect." So I'm adrenaline sensitive, obviously. And so he said, "I'll just tip your chair back. You'll be all right in a moment." Now, if he hadn't have given me that reassurance, my fear would have added fear to the adrenaline already there. In other words, my own adrenal gland would have burst in on the scene and dumped adrenaline into me to add to the Novocaine adrenaline.
Right.
But he short-circuited that process by giving me another focus for my mind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I'm a big believer that whatever gets your attention gets you. And if you're not really in charge of where your mind goes, and most people are not, sadly, then your mind will go wherever it likes and you'll get dragged along behind, which is further proof, actually, that we are soul and spirit, because soul being mind means that it can actually drag our spirits along. And my words to a person suffering panic is change your focus. Change your focus right now. You've got to think about something else.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do whatever we can to distract their brain, because their brain is in a loop. It's building emergency signals, and danger signals and warning signals are all going off in the neurological systems of the mind. And there aren't just hundreds of them, there are tens of thousands of synaptic junctions wired to let loose when we're frightened. And so if whatever gets your attention is what's going to get you, then you better change what's getting your attention very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not for nothing that the angel's first words to people is fear not, because their brain just reacts to the vision of an angel with instant fear. It's outside of their experience and they need reassurance. Well, this person suffering a panic attack needs immediate reassurance. And I'll give whatever reassurance is necessary, that they're not out of their depth, that they can cope, that there are resources. I remember doing telephone counseling to scared young women who had just discovered they are pregnant. And they were almost entirely focused on the danger and the outcomes and the traumas, and imagining an imagination that was just getting away on them. And my job there was to reassure them that there were far more resources available to a young pregnant woman than she had any knowledge of. And so often for 10 or 20 minutes, I would just call in the resources around them that they were not thinking about, the love, the reassurances, the material provisions that were around them, that at that point they were quite unaware of, and therefore very, very frightened. that they were now with child. And so we could define peace as the presence of adequate resources and the awareness of adequate resources. And so in a panic situation, you have to be the one who reminds them of all the resources around them that mean a time, for example, when I got swept out by a rip with a friend, and his advice was don't fight it, float on your back, let it take you where it's going to take you, and then just swim parallel to the shore and then swim back in when you're ready. The worst thing you can do is fight a rip. And as I began to panic, he reassured me with that experience and that judgment that, hey, I can float on my back indefinitely. I don't need to exhaust myself and drown like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we did. And so we got back to shore. It was a longer swim than we were expecting, but we were not fighting for our lives. And just the reassurance that actually we can float on our backs for as long as we need to in that situation was very calming to me. And the thing about adrenaline is that it burns up your energy very, very quickly. And so adrenaline is quite dangerous. And that's why we must not live in a state of tension or in a state of nervous anticipation.
Interesting. Yes, because I actually remember even I had a panic attack many years ago. But nothing, I wasn't fearful of anything. My body just dumped adrenaline because I spoke to my naturopath about it and she said, oh, it's just your adrenaline. Just say to yourself, it's only my adrenaline. Don't worry about it. Let it do it, whatever. And just listen to your heartbeat and think, thank the Lord, it's beating. So that's what I did, and it soon calmed it, and it went away. But I don't know whether I ate something or drank too much coffee that day, but it was quite unnerving actually to have that experience. And I had a couple of them, but I know magnesium is very good for relaxing you as well.
I started running when I was 60, and I started track racing when I was 62. But I found that waiting for the starter's gun at the beginning of the sprint, I'd be so dosed in adrenaline that I'd be useless to sprint. So I composed some truth coaches for myself. You could call it a self-prescription diagnostic. And I remember the first one that I came up with was, nothing important is relying on the results of this race. And that relaxed me. That relaxed me right back. So I was able to do adrenaline-free starts. And in an argument where it's escalating, sometimes you've got to back away and say, I'm in no state to argue this. I'll come back to it after I've had a chance to cool down and let the adrenaline subside in me.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? The power of it, how it can change you, and the effects on your body when you have an adrenaline rush. It's it's there to make you very strong and to get you out of danger, isn't it? Like you're in an accident or something.
I believe. Yes, and I think for every time it gets us out of danger, it probably has put us in danger 10 times because we've escalated the argument, we've retaliated immediately, and the only thing that can follow retaliation is escalation. And before you know it, your best friend is your worst enemy, and everyone's scratching their head wondering how that happened. Well, it happened through fear, and it happened through outrage, and it happened because they pressed on your button of being unjustly accused, for example, and you instantly retaliated to protect yourself from that feeling, and then all hell broke loose as it escalated rapidly.
Yes. So it comes down to knowing your mind, knowing who you are.
And it takes me 2 weeks to train students to the degree of self-awareness that they need in order to be able to heal these echoes from the past, these emotional bruises, this loss of self-awareness, and to heal the emotional bruises, the unbearable feelings that they've accumulated through a difficult lifetime.
Yeah. And you walk around in your world and in your life carrying these things, and you're not even cognitively aware of it, that these things are actually ruling you.
And
And
if
I mean, I did. I'm speaking from experience. I'm now in my 50s. And so I've got 50 years of just life, you know.
and so, how did you get curious enough to enroll in my class, Kylie? What pushed you to sign up?
Well, because I'll be open, I've had a broken marriage. And then from then, I've had two other relationships, and they've been really nasty. And I'm a really nice lady, and I'm a hard worker, and I think I'm really nice. Why can't I meet a really decent guy like everybody else? Why do I attract men that have their own issues? And I know hurt people hurt people. I worked that out. So I was starting already to work on myself and my relationships with those in my family, and other family members and things like that. So I was already going down that road, and then my mother was talking about me to her physiotherapist man, and he said, "Oh well, I went and I sent my three daughters to go, and it's been incredible. Guys should go." So my mother mentioned it to me, and I said, "Enroll me. I'm going to go. Let's go. When's the next one?"
Recommendations.
Yes,
Recommendations.
yes,
Well, uh, people attract people. That's not the problem. The problem is not that they attract difficult people. The problem is that they settle for difficult people. They will attract all sorts, but they settle for difficult people. And that's where we're tolerant, where we shouldn't be. And we should remember that no is a very important word when it comes to discerning who is good for you and who is not.
yes. Well, that's right. And I've learned too that just my self-talk needed to change big time, and it has
Yeah.
now. And I'm worthy now of someone that's really nice and decent, and wants to enjoy life, and yeah, and not have their own issues so much. I mean, we all have times in our life that we struggle with, but generally, someone that's emotionally well is really important to me.
Well, there's such a thing as being too tolerant and ending up with people who just provoke and provoke and provoke. You don't want to do that to yourself in life. It's too short for that nonsense.
Absolutely, that's right. So we'll leave it at that one for this session of Life is for Living. So do check out Living Wisdom website and enroll in a 2-week course. Or
Yes,
for
we do 4 of those per year in Nelson, and we have accommodation there too if you book early. Thank you.
Yes, yep. Great guys. See you later. Bye now.
God bless.